Today on Unity Motorsports Garage, we're going to take a look at one of Ford's most iconic engines, the Boss 302. We're going to look back in Trans Am history to find out if the Boss 302 was all myth or all legend. You be the judge. In 1966 and 67, Ford dominated Trans Am Series, the 5-liter class. That was until Penske and the Camaro of Mark Donohue came onto the scene, and that started to change the game. Even though they wasn't factory backed by Chevrolet, it set in motion the competition between Ford and Chevrolet that was going to prove the way for the Boss 302.
Cougar's biggest handicap at this early stage is its very newness. The Mustangs and some other cars have had years of experience on road and track to sort out any minor technical problems. As the cars stand on the starting grid, Cougar team captain Dan Gurney is asked about the Trans Am's prospects.
What about the Trans-American Sedan Championship Series as a circuit in the United States? Do you think it'll be successful, Dan?
Oh, I think this is very much the beginning, and it's just going to mushroom. I think it'll be great racing.
What do you think the big appeal is?
Well, people can identify with the cars, and they are racing on road circuits, which is what the cars are built to run on, and the competition is going to be very close. This should be great.
Jones and Gurney are on the front row of the 32-car field, but the competition is extremely close. The first 5 cars on the grid have run within 2 seconds per lap of each other in qualifying. Gurney and Mark Donohue's Camaro roar through the first infield turn together. Jones, pinched off in traffic, lays back in 5th. As the field spreads out, the 2 Cougars are running very strongly. Gurney has slipped into 2nd behind Donohue. Parnelli is pushing hard to make up his early loss of position. Donohue in the blue and gold Penske-prepared Camaro is setting a blistering pace in these early laps. Jones, one of the most competitive drivers in racing today, is slowly closing the gap with Donohue. At this early stage of the race, Parnelli is clearly turning the fastest lap times in this hard-driving field. The race is 300 miles long, but the drivers are going as if it were a short sprint around the block. Equipment is bound to suffer under this tremendous pressure.
By middle of the 1967 season, even though the Chevrolet team of Penske and Donohue had their issues, the DZ302 engine program was starting to come around. They were making a lot more horsepower than the 289 of the Ford and Mercury teams. And when Chevrolet got back involved, putting money behind the Camaro teams, that meant that Ford was going to have to go to the table and design an engine to compete. Up until the 1968 season, Ford had been using the 289, but they went and developed a tunnel port version of a 302. As you can see, it followed in the footsteps of the 427 tunnel port, and they thought this engine would be the answer. It made great power on the dyno, but it was plagued by engine problems. They could not make the engine live, and Chevrolet just ran away with the championship in 1968, sending Ford back to the drawing board to build an engine that would save face against the dismal performance of the 1968 season. Thus, the 302 Boss was born. This was going to be the answer, using Cleveland-style cylinder heads that wasn't slated to come out until 1970. Ford created the first Clevor by putting Cleveland cylinder heads on a Windsor 302 block. When comparing the tunnel port to the Boss 302 on paper, they look very similar, but the tunnel port being a sewer port design, which means that there's really no short turn radius in the intake port, and the valve arrangements being in line, contributed to having an engine that was very peaky. The valves were shrouded in the chamber, and that added all kinds of issues. The Cleveland style cylinder head, on the other hand, was a Venturi design. The canted valve arrangement did away with valve shrouding, and that gave more high RPM capability. All of this added to the fact that this created a more useful power range. With the new cylinder head sorted out, Ford knew that they needed to fix the bottom end in order to get durability back. Ford went to a larger connecting rod and went away from the 5/16 rod bolts to a 7/16 rod bolt design with a 4340 forged connecting rod. Ford being out for blood like they were, they ran this engine on the dyno at the Ford laboratories up to 9600 RPM to ensure the durability of the Boss 302 before it hit the racetrack. So let's see how it fared. With the 1969 Trans Am series underway, it was obvious that the competition was going to be hotter than ever. You had all manufacturers getting involved in the game. AMC came to play, Pontiac, and that's just to name a few. This was going to be a turning point as Trans Am racing was starting to take on a whole new meaning. By 1970, the field would include Dodges and Plymouths. As you can see, the 1969 season came down to Ford and Chevrolet again, with Chevrolet coming out on top. But the team of Bud Moore's Fords proved that the Boss 302 was formidable. The durability issues had been solved, and it had the needed power and torque to come off the corners in order to get the job done and get in the winner's circle.
In California, at Laguna Seca, veteran crew chief Bud Moore, whose Mustang team was runner-up to the Camaros last year, looks ahead to the 70 season.
Well, I think that this year, with more people enjoying seeing the Trans Am racing on all the road courses, and another thing with all the different manufacturers involved, such as Ford, Chrysler, American Motors, and even Chevrolet and all into the game here when you got 3 or 4 factory teams running against one another. And so you're going to have a lot of good name drivers driving these cars. So
some of the top names in the racing world are here to put their reputations on the line. Parnelli Jones and George Fulmer, tough, experienced Mustang pilots. Mark Donohue, Trans Am champion last year in a Camaro, and Roger Penske, team captain, are out to do it again with 2 brand new Sunoco Javelins. Talented young Peter Revson will back up Donohue. All-American driver Dan Gurney heads up the Barracuda team. The 1970 Trans Am Championship will be decided here in Kent, Washington on this September 20th, the 10th violent Sunday in a long, long summer. Driver George Fulmer of the Mustang team minutes before the race.
We're definitely going down to the wire now. The outcome of the race here at Kent could decide the championship. So it's been a real tight, close series all the way through. We have good competition from the American Motors team. So it's a tremendous series with the cars very, very close and very, very competitive.
Jones pushes on, never very far ahead, but Donohue can't close the gap. Seconds, and Mustang draws the first blood of the new season. It's Mustang first, Javelin second, another Mustang third, and Barracuda fourth. Penske and Donohue aren't used to running second. It's Rufus Parnelli Jones who tastes victory number 1.
With the 1970 season coming to a close, Ford and American Motors battled it out to the end, with Ford coming out on top. Parnelli-Jones won the championship. Ford won the Manufacturers' Championship, with American Motors coming in second, Chevrolet coming in third, Dodge and Plymouth coming in fourth and fifth. Only a few Mustangs remained to show the signs of this time, because in 1970, Ford pulled out of racing altogether, and only the 1969 and 1970 Boss Mustangs remained as a true testament of the history of this engine. While the 351 Cleveland engine would carry on its legacy in drag racing and in NASCAR, the Boss 302 etched itself in stone, and therefore it's not a myth, it is a true Ford legend.